And we're back once again, only on it's Last Call. Last Call with the alcohol, only on the Last Call Podcast.com. And join me once again, this man here. Well, yes, like the old the YouTube series, I watched this, so you didn't have to. This man watched and covered the UFC on Apex card, which went on and on, on, so that you people didn't have to. He's going to break it down that, the PFL, and a whole lot of other goody stuff. I give you once again the voice of the voiceless for the MMA community. I give you MMA insider and analyst himself from Eurosport UFC and from MMA Oddsbreaker podcast. I give you Marcel Dorff. So Marcel, we're gonna start this off right away here with the UFC on Apex. Yes, if you stayed awake and you were like some of us here, who were like, God, please let this end. The main event ended pretty quick. Let's start off with that. Manuel Kape knocking out Brandon Royval within like the first 2 minutes of the first round. Well, all of a sudden now, if Taihara doesn't get the title shot, there's a lot of people going, hey, Kape versus Van deserves to be for the championship. What did you make of it? And has Manuel Kape basically made all of a sudden things interesting by almost like forcing himself for the next title shot?
Yeah, I mean, Manel made a great case, you know. I mean, knocking out Royval, I don't think anybody did that yet, so that's a big win for him. Yeah, and he made a good case, you know. Also now with Joshua Van being a champion, and he hasn't fought Joshua Van yet, so that's a fresh matchup. So that's interesting, you know. Joshua Van said he wants to defend his title in Houston, but that's a fight night, so I don't know if the UFC can make that fight night into a pay-per-view card or a numbered card, I should say, from now on. But yeah, I mean, Pantoja is probably not quick. It doesn't return quick. So if Van wants to defend the title, it's probably either going to be Cap or Tyra. I think they both have a good case to fight for a title, man. So yeah, I mean, big win for Manuel Cap, obviously here, and yeah, it's up to the UFC what they're going to do. They have options, you know.
Are you surprised more people haven't tried to take basically the game plan that Mohamed Mokayev did against Cape, which is utilize wrestling, keep it, sort of on the ground, avoid the strikes. When I look at Cape, it's like, okay, we know what he is. He is a deadly striker. So how surprised were you that Royval didn't try to take this to the ground like ASAP?
Yeah, I think Royval's just not the fighter to do that, you know. And I mean, Mokayev is more like almost a pure grappler, so he is more like inclined to do that kind of stuff, you know. But for Royval likes to strike as well, and I think his stand-up game is pretty decent, you know. But you got to take how do you say that? Got to be careful for the knockout power of Manel, and yeah, Manel caught him, you know, and it is what it is for Royval. It sucks for him, you know, but yeah, I mean, this is what Manel needed pretty much, you know. Manel was always like on the cusp of having a top contender fight, title fight. Then he missed weight, then he got injured. So for some reason, you know, it never came to fruition. But now he is like in a real good position, and yeah, he's one of the guys who can fight for a title soon. And we'll see what the UFC does. But it's good for the UFC to have like. Have options at flyweight. You know, I think it's a great division. I think there are a lot of really good fighters in the division, and to have options is never a bad thing. You know.
Meanwhile, let's say Cape doesn't get the next fight. Let's say it's basically Van versus Taihara because UFC Japan, they really want to do that. Now, I'll credit Sherdog and Keith Schillen for throwing this out. It's Manel Cape versus Koji Horiguchi.
Mm.
If you're Capes people, do you take that fight, or is that is Horiguchi one of the guys you look at and go, yeah, he's just a bad style for Cape. Like he is another guy who heavy grappling will take him down, out
Uh,
wrestle him and try to submit him quickly.
I mean, Horiguchi is fighting February 7th against Amir Albazi, so he's not into the title run right now. Yeah, maybe if he beats Albazi, but that's in February. So it depends on when the next title fight is in the division, you know. So I don't think like it's like you have on the top, you have now Tyra, you have Cap, you got Pantoja, but Pantoja is injured pretty much. So it's up to the UFC what they're doing. You pretty much got two guys who are waiting to fight for a title. I think Kape kind of deserves it after last night, but I also feel like Tyra deserves it after beating Brandon Moreno, who has actually been a former champion. But then you can say Royval beat Moreno, so um, they both kind of deserve it, in my opinion. And if you look at like Tyra, went to a really close fight with Brandon Royval and lost that fight. But Tyra is a different, how do you say that? It's just a different style fighter. And that's a fighter that Manel might have trouble with because of the good ground game of Tyra. So Tyra might have problem on the feet with the great striking of Manel. So that would be a great fight as well. It depends on what the UFC want to do. If Pantoja is quickly healed, maybe they do the rematch with Van, and we can see Kape against Tyra. Or they do either they Pantoja sideline that they do Kape against Van or Tyra against Van. We'll see, man. But isn't it great that we're talking about so many options in this division and they're all fun fights? So yeah, I'm all good with it.
Meanwhile, Brandon Royval, where does he go from here? Because, as I said, on one hand, he has wins over Brandon Moreno, Tatsuro Taira back in 2024, and people are like, hey, he deserves a rematch against Alexander Pantoja if he gets by Joshua Van. Now it's dropped a fight to Van. It was competitive and close, but it was still, Van won, and now the Cape, Kape went lost, which was by knockout in the first round. Where does he go? Like, is he one of those guys, sort of like Brandon Moreno, where he's not, a gatekeeper, but he's sort of really far away now from the title picture?
Yeah, this is a difficult question for the simple reason that like we got at number one we have Alexandre Pantoja. Well, he's not going to fight Pantoja. He fought him twice already. Then we got Tyra under him. He's not going to fight Tyra. He fought him recently. Brandon Moreno would have been a possibility, a rematch, but Brandon is matched up with Asuel Mabayev. Albazi's fighting Horiguchi. He just fought Kape. So then you come in the Tim Elliott, Steve Ertzak kind of category of fighters. So yeah, that's difficult. I mean, either he has to wait for somebody, or maybe Steve Ertzak makes that. Does that make sense? I don't know. But he has to he will have to fight a lot under his ranking if he wants to be back soon. But knowing Royval a little bit, he will not say no against anybody. So I think if they match him up with a Tim Elliott or Steve Ertzak, he will accept the fight. He doesn't mind. And I think he needs a win. So hey, whatever, man. Match him up with anybody, and he will fight. Royval is not the guy. You saw it like in the summer. He lost the matchup with Kape, so he needed a new opponent. They gave him Joshua Van, who was ranked 12 or 13, I think. And he said, yeah, let's go. And he was the number one contender back then. He said, yeah, let's go. No problem. He lost the fight, but he takes those fights. He don't mind. So I have all respect for Brandon Royval.
Is that smart, though? And I get
No,
it. Look,
no, no, no.
yeah. So going forward, if you're a UFC fighter, you're a top, you're a top three contender. At what point do you have to start looking, going, yeah, look, we get it. Dana, he wants to jump in, fight anybody, but we got to look out for us. I mean, title shots don't come on trees. We can't just take dangerous fighters. Like, I'm guessing his manager probably tried to talk him about the Cape fight. Went, no, don't take it. You deserve like a cupcake a bit. Maybe somebody like a Schnell or an Elliott, or even, I'll throw it out there, maybe even like a Rogerio Bunter, somebody that level. Not, oh yes, let's give you another killer right off the bat. Like, at what point, if you're a Brandon Royval and other guys, you have to start going, look, we gotta look out for us. I know the UFC loves the little guys, but that doesn't help our career.
Yeah, Royval will take what he gets, and he doesn't get it. Doesn't get a top contender right now. He will fight probably under his ranking and under his quality. I think this next fight. Um, but he has to get back on track. So I'm good with that. I don't know when he wants to come back. Um, we'll see. We'll see what is going to happen. But I think Royval's a great fighter. He just got caught yesterday, and this what it is for him. And all credits go to Manuel Kape. But I think Royval will be back. He's a fun fighter. We saw in a lot of his fights how dangerous he is and how good he is, and that isn't gone because of one bad showing. So I have all trust in Royval. He can come back, but like I said, he probably has to fight guys who he didn't expect probably to fight anytime soon.
Let's go to the fight which had everybody, including Marcel Dorff, on his feet going, bravo. Maybe even some tears were shed. That is Kevin Vallejos, all the way from the very MMA centric country, which we know as Argentina. I say that, sort of sarcastically. 24 years old. What do you do for a statement? You will go out there and you just, well, spinning back fist knockout cold over Giga Chikadze. So let's start off here. Is does this say more about Giga as a fighter, or are we seeing a guy in Kevin Vallejos who is now all of a sudden somebody at 145? We go, ooh, he might be ready for top five fighter. Like this guy is almost a legit real deal.
Yeah, I mean, it was a great finish by Vachekos, but the thing is, like, if you look at the first round, Giga won that first round, and Vachekos pretty much knocked him out of nowhere. And listen, he won. That's good, but it's concerning. That first round was concerning to me, because Giga looked really good in that fight. But at the same time, I still need to see Vachekos fighting a real good ground fighter. We've seen him against Chikadze in the UFC, Troy. What was the last one? Danny Silva, which was a fun fight as well. But I want to see him against a really good grappler, and I want to see how he does there. We saw him lose in the Contender Series the first time against Jean Silva. It's his only loss. He's a big talent. He's still super young. There's a lot of time to improve as well, and it looks really promising. He's getting in the top 15 next week probably. His call out wasn't the greatest with Cub Swanson, I feel like, because Cub Swanson is pretty much on his way out. Although I love Cub, but he's on his way out. I think Vachekos should be shooting for the stars, in my opinion. Try to find somebody like low top 10, high top 15 to fight him. You know what I mean?
All right. So again, since I know that you are a guy who sort of may or may not kind of go, well, he wants better, and I guess we're so I'm gonna throw a name out there. Just throwing it out there here. Patricio Pitbull versus Kevin Vallejos.
Yeah, you can do that. It's an interesting fight for South America, I feel like, And the thing is, like, Patricio is like, we know Patricio's really good. So it's an interesting fight. I'll be down for it. Yeah, why not?
Who do you have in mind? Because I could tell you're like, I can do better. Like Marcel's always like, that's okay, Chris, but I got one better. So give me in your mind like who you're looking at for, Kevin Vallejos for his next guy. If it's not Cub Swanson and it's not gonna be, let's say, Patricio Pitbull.
Can you say it again? I didn't hear the
Who do you
question
have in
well.
mind for Kevin Vallejos' next opponent in your estimation?
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of options. I think, he hasn't fought anybody in top 15, it depends on what you want to do. I think the Pitbull, what you say makes sense. Even Dan Ige would make sense. Dan Ige is pretty much like almost the gatekeeper of the division, in my opinion. So that would be interesting. You got David Onama, who's like, I think, 14 or 15 in the division, who is also a good possibility in my opinion. Maybe even Josh Emmett, who is also a little bit of older guy. For matchups like that, those make sense to me.
Meanwhile, for Giga Chikadze, this is a guy who he was the Kevin Vallejos at one point.
Yeah.
After August 2021 knockout win against Edinson Barboza, he's 13-2. We're getting all geek. We're jonesing. He's going to be the next big international, action-packed star. And then since then, he has gone 1-4. Look, no disrespect, losing to Calvin Qatar and Arnold Allen and David Onama are. It's not like he's losing, chopped liver, but could he find himself on the UFC chopping block where all of a sudden it's like, yeah, one win out of out of five fights. Your only win against Alex Caceres. Is this a guy you look at Giga go? He's probably not a UFC fighter anymore, especially now with the current crop that's coming in at 145.
Yeah, I think he's kind of at the end of his career probably, but at the same time, like I said, he won the first round and he looked pretty decent in the first round, you know. Um, but at the same time, I don't see him doing any like I don't see him going up in the division anymore. He's a little bit of an older guy, you know. Um, was for a long time really good, I think. Not good enough for the top, I think, but now it's like a little bit of a decline. At the same time, he didn't do bad in the first round, but he got finished. And yeah, we'll see. I think the UFC gives him another fight, you know, but I don't see him making waves anymore in the division, to be honest.
Should he go up to 155, or is that for him like a death sentence?
Yeah, I don't think that's good for him. I think 145 is the division. I don't think he should. I don't think he should go to 155.
Um, if I know this isn't, we'll go back to the main card, but this is the most intriguing fight I thought of the whole card. It was Yaroslav Amosov, former welterweight champion.
Yeah.
Welterweight never dies, folks. That's right. Taking on Neil Magny and well, I used to, sorry, Islam Makhachev. You have a problem. This guy now is sort of established himself as you need to watch out. He is a force at 170. Usually, if a guy's in the prelim, it's like, all right, we'll slow your roll. You're not going to get a top five fight. Amosov's a different beast. I mean, he literally, took down and defeated Neil Magny almost with ease. 3 minutes and 14 seconds of Anaconda choke in the first round. Should Yaroslav Amosov now be able to talk for a top five fight at 170s? Considering his pedigree, considering he's 29 and 1, and many have said he's one of the best welterweights in the world for several years. Is he in contention for, to say, a top five fight?
No, I don't think he is yet, you know, but I think he won't be in at the prelims anymore. I thought that didn't make sense in the first place at all, you know, but no, I don't think he's gonna get any top five fighter or something, you know, but he will get fast tracked to the top if he keeps winning his next two fights. I think he definitely gets somebody in the top 15 next, you know. And after that, if he wins that one, maybe somebody in the top eight, and then he's really close. So they're going to fast track him if he keeps performing like this, 100%.
So who do you give him then? Because if you put him in, I'm looking at the top. Let's say from 10 to 15, and I don't see any way in the world that if you're Colby Covington or Gilbert Burns going, yeah, we'll take on Yaroslav Amosov. That's like a bad matchup for them. Joaquin Buckley feels like a step down because he'll just take Buckley down, choke him out within a minute. I mean, Jeff Neal, Daniel Rodriguez, Gabriel Bonfim. I'm thinking the UFC wants to go. No, let's hold off on that. So let's say here, Leon Edwards, Yaroslav Amosov. Is that feasible? Is that one of those fights where if you're Dana and it's a new toy, you're like, oh, good. I got another guy who can maybe get rid of one of my guys who are just boring, like Leon Edwards or even Bilal Muhammad. We can. This is what Amosov can do to get in the good graces of Dana White. Call out Bilal Muhammad, call out Leon Edwards, take one of those guys out, and just all of a sudden, Dana's going, "Ooh, you've earned a title shot there, bud. You're next in line."
It's against my thinking, but yeah, why not against Bilal Muhammad? You know, Bilal comes off a title loss and after that, a loss against Gary. Amosov has the hype with him now. Why not? You know, you can do it. I don't want to see him fight Leon Edwards because I want to see Edwards against Buckley in London, like the Mumbler against the Yapper. You know, so yeah, Bilal. I mean, it's actually against what I said. I said somebody top 50, then top eight, and then maybe it's Bilal as number five. But why not? You know, Bilal is like I have nothing against Bilal, but obviously the UFC wasn't that happy that he became champion. He lost to Della Maddalena and he lost to Ian Gary, who are number one and two now in the division. Yeah, I mean, if you want to fast track Amosov, maybe you should let him fight Bilal. It makes sense. I have nothing against it. I actually think it's a good proposal by you, Chris.
Long term thinking.
Yeah.
Is Amos can Yaroslav Amosov beat Islam Makhachev? Considering his one loss was against Jared Jackson, who is a large, welterweight and even almost a middleweight. Considering that Islam is not a big welterweight, is Amosov a guy who, if he took on Islam, you could go, Islam might be, the underdog in this fight.
I don't know, to be honest, because I think like nobody's going to beat Islam right now in the welterweight division, to be really fair. So I don't see Amosov doing that either. So I think listen, I think Amosov can come far, but I think, and it's not even a bad take on Amosov, because I think Amosov is good, but Islam is just next level, and I don't see these guys right now beating Islam at welterweight, to be honest. So it's not like that. I don't think that Amosov is not good, but I just think Islam is so much better than almost everyone.
Meanwhile, Neil Magny, it's not like he's bad. It's not like he looks bad. It's just for him, like, how much longer do you keep going on to this? Because he'll win two fights, then he'll lose two fights. He'll beat guys like Phil Rowe and Daniel Rodriguez,
Mhm.
but he loses to the Gilbert Burns and Ian Machados. He'll, win against Ezekiel Zaleski and Jake Matthews, gets knocked out by Michael Morales, Carlo Pratis, and choked out by Yaroslav Amosov. So what do you do if you're the UFC? I mean, at what point, and at what point for Neil Magny are you going like, there's easier ways for me to make money. There's easier ways for me not to take a lot of punishment.
Yeah, I mean, I think Magny will stay around. He was on a two-fight winning streak, but the Amosov fight is just difficult, that this is a really tough matchup for Neil. And I still think Neil beats a lot of guys in the division, dude. So I think he will stay around as long as possible. Neil Magny's kind of the guy who's like, he can make it tough with like the most guys in the division. Only like the really good guys, they will get past him. And you see in all of his losses in his last 4 or 5 years, only like the real good guys who went to fight for a title or became a champion or are in contention right now won against him. So I mean, he's still pretty good, Neil Magny.
Well, we go to the other, I'd say, like big fight of the night, which was a shocking, once again, a shocking knockout win for Mikizo Costa with a first round knockout TKO over Morgan Charrere and by a head kick. What can you say when you have a guy like this who is just another striker who the UFC loves? Because we know
Yeah.
UFC, they love their strikers. Was this a very good win? Is this a guy who all of a sudden seems to turn the corner since the Steve Garcia fight, or was this one of the UFC once again feeding a guy who they want? Oh, we want knockouts. So this is a guy who's not going to wrestle, not going to grapple, not going to take you down. He's going to stay in the wheelhouse for the Dalmatian?
Yeah, it's like the UFC doesn't really value what he's doing. He absolutely deserved a performance bonus for that knockout, in my opinion, and they just passed him over again. Fifth win in a row, fourth win in 2025. Dude does look really, really good, and this is a big win for him, in my opinion. He should also get somebody close to the top 15 or top 15, in my opinion. Um, yeah, really good win for him, man. And I was like, when Melky came to the UFC, I was like, yeah, he's decent, but I don't know how he's gonna do. But yeah, he seems to be really good. So all credits to Melky. What a knockout, man, dude! Great knockout.
So what does he need to do then to get the UFC to go? Hey, you know what? He deserves better. Like who should he call out right now? Because he's ranked 15th at featherweight, so he's sort of in that sort of no man's category where we talked about, hey, all of a sudden, Kevin Vallejos deserves a top 10 guy, top 15 guy. Is this the same kind of person? I mean, if you're, UFC, do you go, hey, let's put, Kiziel Costa versus, let's say, Josh Emmett?
Um, yeah, it's possible. It's like it's the same way for Vachejos. It's one of these guys, Emmett, Onama, Dan Ige, Patricio Pitbull, one of these guys. So I think he also deserves a top 15. So I'm all good with it.
We'll recap the rest of the card. And again, the UFC, they love their Polish guys. So what do? They get in an action-packed fight. Another Pole steps up. That's right, Cezary Oziuk, the 6'3", 185-pound gangly Polish middleweight, scoring a very fun, action-packed UFC debut win over Cesar Almeida. I can feel the UFC going, all right, hey, you know what? We might have something here. We don't want to rush him. He's only 25 years old. We got our time. The middleweight division's get a bit old. So is this the beginning of them giving, another Polish guy a lot of cupcakes where, hey, let's just take it slow. Let's build this guy up. And, once all these guys retire, we can start pushing him up to, dare I say, the UFC middleweight top five.
It's a good question, but the thing is, like, I wasn't that impressed, to be really honest, man. I think, and I think his brother Mikhail said like he was injured going in the second round. That's why he fought like a safe fight. It wasn't really fun to watch, but he got it done. It's his debut, so I should give him some leeway here, or how you say that. But it wasn't really like a fun fight to watch, in my opinion. But he did what he had to do. He got the win. So yeah, we'll see next time. But did you enjoy the fight?
I mean, it was fine. It wasn't great, but it was fine. And again, for middleweight, which middleweight, light heavyweight, weight and heavyweight is getting a bit old in the tooth. The UFC loves guys who are young, who bring who are strikers, who are action packed, and let's face it, when you win your debut, all of a sudden they go, "Ooh, we can start something new." I mean, they again. I mean, you're looking around. How many young guys do you see get into the sport and are doing well who are under the age of, let's say, 32?
Yeah, that's true. That's definitely true. So it's also not a hit on him or anything that I say that he's bad, but I just say it wasn't fun to watch. I'm just being honest. And it's his debut, so he needs to get the win, and he did what he had to do. He fought a guy his ground game is not great, and yeah, he got the win. So I cannot be how do you say that, too negative about it. You know what I mean?
Let's, there was a tale two heavyweight fights. One was an action-packed slobber knocker, which even you went, okay, I love heavyweights. Then we had another fight, which you probably went back and went, I hate these heavyweights. We need to ban them. Outlaw heavyweight MMA altogether. We're talking about the first fight was just one man dishing out a lot of punishment, the other man just standing and banging there. Steve Asplund taking on Sean Sharaf. Asplund getting the second round knockout with standing TKO, even though Sharaf just stood in there like Robbie the Robot and kept on going. That I'm guessing you loved. And then the other heavyweight fight between Kennedy Nijuku versus Marcus Buchecha, you probably sat there and went, I hate heavyweights. Get rid of these bums.
Man, dude, let's be honest, man. The Buchecha against Nzechukwu fight. I don't want to be a bitch or a dick, but
At least you
man,
can. You love being a dick. That's what you are.
uh,
Embrace
man,
it, Marcel.
absolute trash. Horrible fight. Really got annoyed by watching that fight. It was a draw, so it also wasted time of everybody. Not a good fight. Asplund Sharaf, I wouldn't have given it the fight of the night, but it was a fun fight to watch. I think Asplund deserved definitely a bonus. Dude looks like, how do you say that? Super heavy, but his cardio was crazy. He kept coming, keep giving the same pace the whole damn time. And at a certain moment, Sharaf was out of it, and yeah, man. I mean, great win for Asplund. Seems like a really down to earth, cool guy as well. So that I always like to see that. And yeah, I mean, a good win. And let's never talk again about the Buchecha against Nzechukwu fight, because man, fucking horrible.
I can tell there's anger. And I remember, I get it. Yeah, at one point, I remember on the show, you were saying, hey, Marcus Buchecha, This is a guy who can make noise in the heavyweight division. He's this world-renowned grappler. So it's okay, Marcel. You can come on my show. Just tell people the truth. Marcus Buchecha was
Yeah.
never Marcel Dorff's friend.
I have nothing against the guy, but it's just not fun to watch, you know? And I mean, Kennedy also did barely anything, but he won fucking 2 rounds by doing barely anything because he landed a couple of strikes, you know what I mean? So yeah, that's why that's just annoying to watch a fight like that because it's just not it doesn't have anything, you know what I mean? It doesn't have anything. It's just like not fun to watch. And yeah, I mean, what else do you want me to say about this fight? I think we already talked way too much about that
You
fight.
can say Marcus Buchecha needs to be cut. The last guy he fought, Martin Buday, you're like, oh my God, this fight's terrible. And they cut Buday. They cut the guy who's 15 and
Yeah,
2, who went 16 and 2. And he got cut and Buchecha stayed. So, Marcel, this is where you can bang the ward and go, hey, look, that Buchecha guy was never my friend. F that guy. Cut him, Dana. Cut him. Get on your bat phone to say, Dana, you gotta cut the mofo.
yeah, you'll see just a bunch of idiots sometimes. You know what I mean? So, um, I mean, listen, Budai wasn't a fun fighter either. You know, I got to be honest here, but he deserved to be like. How do you say that? He deserved to be still in the UFC, and they hoped with Buchecha on the main card that he would redeem himself for that first fight, but it was fucking horrible, you know. Yeah, just not fun to watch. Not a good fight. Uh, and Kennedy should have won that fight, to be honest. You know, in my opinion, he should have finished him. But for some reason, Kennedy is also not that amazing. You know what I mean? And I always want to keep it respectful, but it just was horrible to watch. I cannot say anything else.
All right. There was also another heavyweight fight, which you also were like, oh my God, really, UFC? Why? Why are you doing this? I mean, again, I could hear the anger in your voice, and you usually come across like this fun-loving guy. No, you were not that. After Guilherme Pat defeated Alan Fry by unanimous decision, once again, after that fight, how much were you calling the UFC, going, just kill the heavyweight division, kill it, just put it in the oven and just turn on the oven, kill this goddamn heavyweight division.
Yeah, I briefly talked with Adam about it. I was like, this just smells like contender series. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's just a horrible fight, also. You know, and um, just not good. Just not good. And the heavyweight division. Listen, you got this guy, this Aspen guy. He doesn't look like he got cardio, but he got cardio, and it's fun to watch. You know what I mean? But then this one, I mean, what the hell are you watching, dude? I mean, the heavyweight division is. Yeah, I don't even know what I have to say, dude. It's just it was a horrible fight as well. There were some really bad fights on this card, some, and these were one of those two heavyweight fights. Like two of the three heavyweight fights was absolute trash to watch. Gotta be honest.
So let's start with the question here. Was
Yeah.
this the worst card ever for you to watch at the UFC? Was this that card where you're looking at going, God damn, I hate this card. I hate this card. I really hate this card.
So there were many factors actually why I didn't like this card. You know, there were some fun finishes, but the thing is, like, you got to understand, like, it's like 4 a.m. main card start over here, right? And these guys, they're starting the fights, and they're gonna do fucking highlights from the ESPN era between fights, and they're gonna talk about the ESPN era between the fights. Do that fucking after the event, you know. Don't do that during the event. I want to see the fucking fights. I was in bed 8:30 a.m. You know, because of that bullshit. Do that after the fights. Don't do that during the fights. You know, it's really annoying. I've seen all those fights. I've seen all those highlights. It doesn't add any more value. If you want to do like how do you say that? A thank you show to ESPN, do it after the show, you know? And besides that, yeah, some of these fights weren't good. It is what it is. You know, I'm not gonna say like the matchmaking is super bad or whatever. But yeah, I mean, some of these fights are just not that good, and it happens. You know, it happens.
Well, to recap the rest of the card, it was, well, we had a women's flyweight, fight between Jamie Lynn Horth against Teresa Bleda. Knockout victory with right hook and follow-up punches for Jamie Lynn Horth. Quickly, is she somebody to watch at, or is Bleda just somebody that you look at and go, yeah, she shouldn't be in the UFC?
Um, I mean, listen, Bleda came back from a long injury, right? And she didn't look good at all. She had cardio for 2 minutes. Um, Horde did great, great win for her, stoppage win. Um, I don't think Bleda remains in the UFC, to be honest. Horde did well. Good for her. I didn't expect her to win like that.
In a women's bantamweight division, which you have said is one of the worst divisions in all of MMA. Luana Santos defeated Melissa Croden by unanimous decision. Once again, the same thing. Is Santos, somebody you keep your eye on, or is Croden somebody you look at and go, yeah, you don't belong in the UFC?
Who, Horde or Bleda?
Corden. I mean, Santos versus Corden, the women's
Oh,
bantamweight.
sorry, yeah, yeah. The thing with that fight, yeah, I mean, I pretty much expected the way it went, because we saw Cronin against Lisboa last time. She didn't look good in the first round, but she was able to overpower Lisboa because she was bigger girl there in that fight, but not because of technique. And if you look at Luana Santos is strong, and her ground game is better than Cronin's ground game. So I expected her to do this pretty much. Um, yeah, Cronin was like a fish out of water, a fish on dry. Let's put it that way. She on the ground. She couldn't move anywhere. Um, the scorecards, by the way, by the judges, they were fucking horrific. I don't know how they fucking score a fight, but I mean, the rounds were pretty clear. It was pretty clear to me that Luana won 2 rounds, and one round was like a 50-50 one. But they gave, like, I think the second round, which was in my opinion clear for Luana, 2 of the 3 judges gave that one to Croden. Like, are you fucking out of your mind? But yeah, whatever. Um, but yeah, I mean, Santos did what she had to do. She hold on her ranking, number 15, good for her. And for Croden, I mean, you can lose a fight, it's no problem. She has to bounce back in her next fight, but we'll see if she is able to do that. Because I'm not really high on her at all, but I think she can beat a couple of girls in the division for sure. So it depends on who they match her up with.
In another featherweight fight, we saw uh, Tubaro, Yuanderson Brito defeating a very game, but let's say average Isaac Thomason for unanimous decision win. Again, did this say more about Thompson, or did this say more about Brito in terms of who won and who lost?
Um, I think that Thompson actually had a real good showing. The funny thing is, like, you had 2 guys who were on a 3 or 4 days' notice here. You had Thompson, who lost by unanimous decision, and you had Lance Gibson Jr., who lost by split decision. Well, I had the feeling that Thompson had a better showing. I think Thompson looked really good, man, definitely in the first round. Um, Joe Anderson had trouble with him on the ground, but Joe Anderson had a better cardio. You know what I mean? He had a better cardio. Um, so that's what it is. But the thing is, like, he was more prepared because Thompson didn't know he had to fight, and Joe Anderson did know he had to fight. So for me, I think Thompson showed a real good debut, man. He really showed a good debut. So uh, the moral winner of this fight for me was Thompson, but. Brito was able to get the win, but it was far from impressive. So, but Brito needed the win because he has 2 losses in a row, But it was one of the better fights of the night, in my opinion.
And finally, to round up the card, Bobby King Green, now known, defeated Lance Gibson by split decision. A lot of people had this fight going as a unanimous decision victory on the media and online for Green. Did they do Gibson Jr. dirty? Look, I get it. He's a young kid. He needs to get, a good fight here. But was Bobby Green for what who Lance Gibson's, faced and fought? Was this too big of a step up for him in terms of his UFC debut?
Can you say again? The
Was
sound
King
sound.
Green too big of a step up for Lance Gibson right off the bat?
Um, I feel like yeah, it was too big of a step. I feel like, a lot of people were like, it's a pretty close fight. I don't think it was that close, in my opinion. I felt like Bobby was a little bit toying around or I should say King, sorry. King was a little bit toying around with Lance, I felt like at a certain moment. But I Lance did okay, man, but he was kind of hesitant in the fight. I mean, octagon jitters all the time, it happens. Let's see him on a full fight camp, getting fighting next time. And he fights a lesser opponent. I think he will do pretty well, But yeah, this was a little bit too tough of a task right now, I think.
So let's go to the PFL because they deserve some love, and I haven't given them a love in a while. So PFL Lyon, let's talk about the two big fights. First off, Cris Cyborg submitting Sarah Collins in a dominant by rear naked choke submission. Afterwards she called out for the fight a retirement fight against Leah McCourt. Let's start off here with Cris Cyborg. Has she gotten the respect from the MMA community overall? Mainstream and sort of even the hardcores in terms of what she's done? Because it feels like just, and I blame the UFC and Dana for their campaign for many years. Like, it just seems like we haven't appreciated the dominance of Cyborg.
No, and that's because a lot of the MMA community sucks Dana White's dick for lunch. You know what I mean? They believe everything he says. And for me, Cyborg, and I don't care what other people say, she's still the best woman fighter of all time. And a lot of people will mention me to like, look what Amanda Nunes did to her. Oh, yeah, that's great. Look how dominant Cyborg has been through the years. She was there. She was world class before Amanda Nunes was even like close to any world title, and she's still world class, with Amanda Nunes already being retired. She comes back now, But for me, Cyborg's always been the number one, and she has not lost against Nunes. That's true. Never got a rematch from the UFC, obviously. But yeah, Cyborg to me is like one of the goats, and in my opinion, the goat of women MMA. And yeah, she won against Sarah Collins, but I didn't expect anything else, to be honest.
She's 40 years old, and yet she still made it look easy. Look, Sarah Collins is a damn good fighter. Sarah Collins could probably walk into the UFC and be a top five fighter, and yet for 3 rounds, Cyborg basically did whatever she wanted to do, whether she kept it standing, took her down, um, complete domination. Again, is there anybody you would make right now if you could? Let's say Dana's been suspended for anything we can think of. You take over the UFC, you make a PFL versus UFC super fight. Is there anybody outside of Amanda Nunes, and even Nunes I'd now say is sort of an underdog, but you'd look and go, I want to see Cyborg versus this one because it's actually a good fight. There's actually a chance the other woman could actually beat Cyborg.
You're asking me who I think who would be able to beat Cyborg.
Yeah, is there any fight that you look at right now and go, hey, this woman might be able to, even at age 40, might be able to beat, Cyborg.
Yeah, it's difficult. Definitely not at 145. The thing is, like, there's nobody at 145 for her. And Cyborg says like she's willing to go down a little bit in weight. I don't think she needs to do that. Um, Not really. Maybe Kayla's possibility if she can wrestle her. But at the same time, Cyborg is pretty decent on the ground as well. Actually pretty good. So no, I don't know, to be honest. Maybe I would love to see a rematch with Amanda Nunes, man, at 145. That would be great. I would love to see that, but UFC's not going to let it happen. So, no, nobody. I also hear that she called out Dakota Ditcheva after the fight. I mean, PFL is never going to do that, man. It's too much of a danger for Dakota to being possible to get knocked out. And they're not going to do that. They have Dakota as a star, and they want to keep her as a star.
So if her final fight is against Leah McCourt, look, I love
Yeah.
Leah. She is a action-packed, fun fighter. She does a lot of work outside, the MMA cage in terms of, women's rights, freedom, and everything. But is this going to be the same thing where Leia's going to be game? She's going to bring the fight, and yet this will still be probably a third round finish for Cyborg.
Yeah, I think Cyborg will blast through her. To be really honest, man. I don't think Cyborg really has competition in the PFL right now. So I think she blasts through everybody, and like she did pretty much in almost all of her career. So yeah,
Well, if Cyborg is dominant, she's on her way out. A guy who is on his way up is former Bellator light heavyweight champion, now turned heavyweight. That is the indomitable Vadim Nemkov. He basically ran once again. He ran through Renan Ferreira like butter. First round submission in the PFL inaugural heavyweight championship in Lyon, France. Here's the other question: if Cyborg doesn't have any competition in the PFL, is there any heavyweight who can take on Nemkov? Who, once he takes you down, that's it. He was just going to get right on top. He's going to either take your back, get your arm, and next thing you know, you're tapping.
yeah. Let him fight Francis. Let him fight Francis.
I'll get to that in a bit. First, let's start off here with: is Nemkov good enough where he could probably even beat any of the UFC heavyweights? Is this one of those guys you look at and go, doesn't matter where he is, whether it's PFL, whether it's UFC, whether it's KSW, he is one of the best heavyweights in the world.
I feel like he needs to fight in the UFC to prove that, man, to be really honest. That's like, there is the top level right now for the division. I think the division is already pretty like lame overall. But yeah, he needs to come to the UFC, I think.
So does he fight Francis Ngannou next? If you're the PFL, do you make that fight happen? Do you go, all right, hey, we're doing this. We are going to make Francis Ngannou versus Vadim Nemkov, or is that a pipe dream fight because Francis seems to now all of a sudden go, it was great PFL, but I want bigger, better things.
But if Francis is a bitch to PFL, I would make that fight if I was PFL. You know what I mean? That's like a fight that's a lot of people I think want to see right now. So why not do that? There was like, and Francis doesn't look like he wants to re-sign with the PFL anytime soon. So why not make that fight? You don't lose anything if Francis somehow loses that fight.
So let's go to Francis Ngannou.
Yeah.
Dana White's been on a campaign for years going, hey, Francis Ngannou is a bully. Francis Ngannou is kind of is a horrible man. Francis Ngannou is just an a-hole. He said that in the last couple of years, so we take it with a grain of salt. But and look, Dana's also, likes to sort of, well, Dana lies a lot. I mean, I know
Hmm.
people love him in UFC, but let's face it, Dana sometimes could lie like, even a snake oil salesman.
Yeah.
But it seems like this is one of those few cases where there's merit. All of a sudden now, Francis Ngannou's going, hey, my contract is up before the White House. I could take on Jones at UFC White House card. If you're a PFL, how pissed are you that right now, all of a sudden, France like, yeah, I know you gave me everything and I loved it, but I want out. See you later. Time to go. Well, bye bye.
Yeah, of course. I wouldn't be happy with it at all. The thing is like, also take in mind, Francis is not going to fight in the UFC anymore. So he's not going to fight John Jones at the White House card. So I don't know why he thinks that's a possibility. Um, and for PFL, it fucking sucks because they invested a lot of money in him, I think. And I feel his attitude towards them is kind of disrespectful, in my opinion. And I have no idea why that is. But yeah, I mean, I wonder what he's going to do next. But I'm sure the UFC doesn't want him back. And he's not going to re-sign with PFL. So yeah, maybe going into boxing. I have no idea.
Was it worth it for the PFL? I mean, considering what they gave, and I get it, when he became a free agent, everybody was all happy. They were holding hands. There was some canoodling. PFL was just, giddy as can be. But now after we've seen, after it's been what, two heavyweight fights and some boxing cards, did PFL get porked by signing, Ngannou in the first place?
Yeah, I feel so. I feel like that. I think Dana said when he got signed, good luck with him. We're happy he left. And I feel like the PFL kind of feels the same, that they're like, we're happy when we get rid of him for some reason, because if you look at it, what did he do for the PFL so far?
Well, he won their heavyweight championship. I mean,
Yeah,
I
yeah, okay, but
guess.
I mean, I don't mean as in the, I don't, he was going to be an ambassador for for PFL Africa, right? What did he do? That's what I'm saying. What did he do?
No, I get it. He did it. He did bupkis. I get it.
Yeah,
Trust me. So again, you say the UFC won't sign him. Is there a chance, though? I mean, because they're moving to Paramount. No more pay-per-views. They actually have a boss who wants like big, sexy fights. President wants, big, sexy fights. So if John Jones comes out and says, "Hey, I'll fight the UFC, but I'll fight the UFC White House," and the guy goes, "Yeah, I'll fight John Jones in the UFC White House." Is there a chance that Dana just goes like a one fight deal? All right, both you guys can fight, and then afterwards, just F off. I don't care. Is there a chance that could actually happen?
no, 0% that fight's going to happen.
Really?
Yeah,
Because that would make money. You know that. And there's a part of you that I know desperately would love to have John Jones knock out Francis Ngannou.
all right,
You get
listen.
in the cage. You basically the bromance is back. You and John Jones, your
Chris,
goat.
Chris, I'm not against the fight. Don't get me wrong. I'm not against the fight, but it's not going to happen in the UFC. Absolutely not going to happen in the UFC. Dana was clear, and I believe. Listen, Dana lies a lot, but I believe him here. He's not going to take back Francis Ngannou. That relationship is completely gone. It's not going to happen.
Well, you broke a lot of people's hearts, Marcel. Just want to
I'm
say
just
that.
realistic.
You're like the Grinch at Christmas, where
Yeah,
MMA fans had dreams of this. Now you're just like peeing right on those dreams, going, "No, you're getting coal for Christmas."
yeah. I'm also hairy, but not green. But so
Well, very heavily. Once again, we love having him on the show because he pulls no punches, takes no dives, and as he said, I am finally done watching that godforsaken final UFC Apex on ESPN card. Um, I give you Marcel Dorff. So, Marcel, once again, where can fans check you out at? Where is the Twitter, Instagram, the YouTube channel, the podcast? Where can fans hit you up at?
yeah, it's as always, thanks for having me, Chris. It's a bit Marcel24, Twitter, Instagram. Eurosport.nl mixed martial arts sections for the articles. I have the MMA Oddsbreaker podcast with Adam Martin. I don't know if it's going to be uploaded, but it's tonight, Sunday, 7:30 p.m. We'll do the podcast. Also, I want to say, like, this is the last event of 2025. I want to say to the listeners and to you as well, Chris, already a Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year.
Well, we're gonna bring you
That
back on because even though the fight's
oh,
around, we still need you back. Because
okay,
God,
okay, I
you
didn't
can
know, I
miss.
didn't know
We
that.
always need, a jolly, sideburned, MMA podcast just to come on and drop some f bombs and
Okay, I
give
didn't
people
know
sometimes
that.
call
Okay,
their stockings.
okay, I didn't know that, but yeah, then I will do that later. But yeah, thanks for having me on, Chris. Always a pleasure to talk to you about MMA, and yeah, looking forward to talk to you next time.
Marcel Dorff, ladies and gentlemen, once again, always honor and pleasure to have you on the show. We come back. We got a lot more going on here. Only on it's last call. Last call with the alcohol. Only on the last call podcast.com.